What's up, guys? Out here today. Can't really tell it out here, but man, it is cold. So the year has gotten away from me. I think the biggest problem has been painting this car. It took a whole lot longer than I anticipated. Plus, we had a super hot summer here. I'd get off work, it'd be so hot, man, it'd be 105 degrees, and there was no way I was going to get in the paint booth and do any painting, because it's not climate controlled in there. And so anyway, so now this is going to put me at the beginning of winter as I'm working on this project. So let me show you what I got going on today. So here's the engine in the car. I made me some custom green wires. Those are 8mm Tons Performance 8.0 high temp wires. Excuse the leaves. With the hood being partially cracked open, it's been blowing leaves in here and everything else. But motor's in, it's mounted. I went through on the wiring harnesses since my injectors. I'll have to go look. I think they're around 700 cc, but they're low impedance, so I had to, or impedance, however you want to say that. So I had to put in resistors into mine. Since mine's an SL, it needs high resistance injectors, but everything that you get larger is lower resistance. So I made these new wiring harnesses with brand new plugs. These are the factory ones, and as you guys, anybody that has messed with these cars, know that all the plastic plugs inside these things, man, are just so brittle. They just break when you try to pull them off. So I bought all new plugs, wired them into this new wiring harness, and then put a plug on the end. And I did the very same thing for down here in the rear. These guys back here, wired them into a plug. So I need to cut off the factory plug and then wire this guy in. So that way, I may never even take that apart again, but at least I got brand new wiring harnesses in there. Been working on fuel line getting hooked up. Superchargers just sitting in the car right now. I put it in there today to start working on my belt alignment. Going to a 6 rib on this thing. I did a lot of the fab work piece by piece. Some of it was done with the engine out of the car, so on. Before I did a lot of fab work before I even pulled the engine out. So it is very tight in here. So I took the factory master cylinder here, which is just sitting in here right now, and I took off the factory brake reservoir, and then I bought a used one off of a 3000 GT. Not 3000 GT, I'm sorry guys, off of an Eclipse to get the remote brake reservoir. So this is my stock 3000 GT master cylinder, which is about a 1/16 or so inch bigger in bore than the one that's on the Eclipse. I wanted to keep the larger master cylinder, but I removed these plastic hose mounts, or hose barbs, whatever you want to call them, so that I could run a remote brake reservoir, which I need to, because as you can see in this area, there's no way that the factory one is master cylinder mounted reservoir is going to fit. So I went with a ZZ Performance pulley. I went with this because it's I can change pulley sizes pretty easy because it comes with the hub and whatnot. But that pulley, they come 8 rib, but I had my machine shop at work cut the last 2 ribs off the back side of this so that it made it smaller. But the only real problem with this particular pulley is it sticks out so far here on the front end, which gets me really close to where these hoses are going to mount. So once I get the hoses in there, there's probably going to be, it's going to be at least a 1/4 inch or so clearance in there. I'm just going to have to make sure that I have these hoses secured so that they don't move and end up rubbing up against that. But what I'm doing today, as you can like I said, again, it's going to be hard to see. Let me try to get a light down in there. But this 6 rib, hold on a second. That 6 rib belt barely touches that master cylinder. I mean, barely. I mean, there's probably a hair in between where it runs in between down to the crank pulley. So what I'm going to do is take this guy out, which again, I already have it unbolted. Let me go ahead and pull it out of here. Is I'm going to come just right here on the side of it. I'm going to put a mark, and I'm just going to take a flapper wheel on an angle grinder and just maybe take a 1/16 of an inch or so off of that. Nothing that's going to get me into danger of that metal being too thin, but there's only one part of the belt that runs across there, so I'll probably do, you know, an inch or so wide and about an 1/8 inch, or not 1/8, about a 1/16 deep, just to give me a little bit of clearance, just to give me some peace of mind. Then I'm going to pull this supercharger out, because I still have to finish bolting it together and putting the oil in it. That's one thing I got to do. But on this timing cover here that's got these ribs on it, those ribs are very, very close to that belt as well. Even if I stayed with the 4 rib, I mean, the belt almost touches that cover. So I'm going to mark on this, and then using the same flapper wheel on my angle grinder is just barely, you know, sand these down to where the ridges are gone. I'll see how it looks. I may paint it with some semi-gloss black paint or something if it looks too gnarly, but that way I get some clearance on the sides of that belt. Once I get that done, then I'll put the master cylinder back in, route my hoses, because I plan to put the reservoir over here. I don't know if I mentioned on other videos, but I did the ABS delete on this with the stainless steel brake lines. ABS is deleted, the cruise control is deleted, because this car, you know, at best, probably going to drive it, you know, 50 miles, 100 miles round trip, something like that, so I don't really need cruise control. But I'm going to mount the brake reservoir probably somewhere in here, may even bring it back to here, and then the hoses will run all along there over to the master cylinder. That way it's got plenty of clearance. I'm going to try these new batteries out. They're a lithium motorcycle battery that I found on Amazon. I'll have to go back and look at how much they cost, but these things have 350 cranking amps. So I bought 2 of them. As you can see, they're very tiny, but I bought 2 of them, and I set them in here on the factory mount. I was initially looking at taking them, I don't know if you guys can visualize this with me, but when I took out the evap and the ABS system, I was going to take these batteries and mount them up somewhere inside this fender right here, to where, you know, you would have to pretty much take the fender well off, the inner fender anyways, to get to them. And then I thought, well, I'll try them out in here, and I set them in here. No, I think they look pretty good in there. The main reason I was going with smaller batteries is because I'm doing a custom cold air intake that's going to come at an angle down into here. So I needed the clearance, because if I had the full-size battery in there, I'm just going to do a 45 this way, and it would hit the stock battery. So I'm going to take those 2 batteries and run them in parallel with each other, so they'll still be 12 volts, but it'll double my cranking amps to 700, according to what that says. But you know, we'll see how those guys work. Hopefully they work good and I didn't waste my money. But the nice thing is this thing is a 5-speed, so I can always park it on a hill, and if these batteries ever go kaput, at least I get the car running again, so that's a plus. But before I painted it, I went through this area here underneath the fuse box, and I cut this entire section out here, so you can see how big this hole is here. There's just a wiring harness that runs through here, and what I'm going to do is when I run my filter over, from my cold air intake is I'm going to rest the filter as close to this opening as I can to allow cold air to come in. I'm gonna have to take this plate out here. That's where your ABS and your evap was all in here, and I take this plate out here. Then cold air will come in through the front intake, and it'll force it up into here. And then my air filter will be sitting right in here, and it'll be protected by the inner fender well, which will keep dirt and water from getting on it. But it should have some nice cold air rushing into the cars, I hope. So, getting a whole lot closer. Maybe the next video we'll be doing a permanently mounting the supercharger in there with the mounting bracket, and I'll be just that much more closer. But I'm waiting. Once I get the supercharger in there, I got the oversized brakes. I'm putting Gen 1 VR4 brakes on there. You know, they're still a lot larger than the SLs. I'm keeping the stock 17-inch rims. So I was worried if I went with the Gen 2 that my caliper would hit the wheel. So just playing it safe. But I still have to put the front fenders and ground effects or side skirts on this car. I left all of that off, including the front bumper, because I've been doing a lot of leaning into this car and I didn't want to damage my new freshly painted fenders. But before I put those on, I'll have to do my front mount intercooler, which I'll do a video on how I'm going to pipe that. I'm going to try to leave as much of that front aluminum bumper on there as I can. I'm going to cut some of it to be able to fit the whole intercooler on there, and then do my whole piping system, get all that lined out, and then start putting the body panels on. So hopefully we'll be rocking and rolling before it gets really cold. So anyways, guys, I hope you've been enjoying following this. I'll continue to try and get some videos up every week or two just to let you know the progress. You know, if any of you done a complete custom job like this, you know, I know guys have put superchargers on these cars before, but this one is completely custom. So there's a lot of things that you have to figure out as you go, you know, like the master cylinder and parts like that you just don't anticipate being a problem until they become a problem. And then once they become a problem, then you got to do something about it, and that just slows you down. So anyways, you guys take care. See you on the next video.